Thank you.
I was supposed to write it. You asked me.
Pension, it's for you.
Yeah,
We'll read it together afterwards.
it's 2 pages.
Rabbi, so without you even realizing, you taught me something new. That every time we pick up Torah, even if we think it's the same thing, it's never the same thing. We're always learning something new.
Definitely.
How big the shul should be?
Oh, how big the shul should be.
Or how tall?
How tall it should be.
Excellent.
You didn't get? I'm sorry. How big and how tall the shul has to be. Siman Kuf Nun. We learned yesterday about how you build a shul. And shul construction. In the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, these simonim are missing. So we'll learn it in the Mishnah Berurah. There's 5 simonim about shul construction. Hopefully by the time we're done, we'll have the permits. At the Vila, we need to figure out how to do it. There's codes. Well, never mind the department of building.
You have to call Betzalel Ben-Uri.
And you got to call the Mishnah Berurah, the Bir Halacha.
Betzalel Ben-Uri.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's copying the words in the Rambam.
Let me look in with you for a second. Here. Binyan Beis HaKnesses v'Shiyur Gavoya. This is the Gemara we learned yesterday. The people in the city are allowed to force each other to build a Beis HaKnesses. We learned it a couple of weeks ago in the Rambam. Shmulik immediately when he learned it was so excited, he underlined it and sent me a text with a picture of the Rambam. The Liknus Lahem, Toyd and Navim, look in the next copy, Uksuvim. To buy a Toyd and Navim Uksuvim. Aim by the Beis HaKnesses El B'Gavah. You build a shul, it has to be in the highest point of the city. And you build the building very high. It has to be higher than all the other houses. Lafuki Bironius, excluding towers. Towers that are not made to live in it, but towers that are made just
when going up the
so they're like the spitz of the roof is the same din. Targum Sakiyas Achemda Biryonia Shapiron. Umagdolin Shaim Mishtamshem, the Gagshum Mishupavein Rola Tashmish, the same din. The this part of the roof that no one's using, it's a crawl space. Mishan Adam Mokum Shorosh Rola Tashmish. The Hainu Shim Yesham Aliyah Tachsagag. If there is an attic that people use and live in it, so that has to be lower than the Beis HaKnesses. Shaloya Gavoya Yosem Beis HaKnesses. B'shas Atchak. If they're in a tight spot right now, or Sheshemas Amalchus, Shenem Roshem, Livnes Beis HaKnesses Kedinei, many governments did not allow for a Beis HaKnesses to be built. Mutter l'spal b'beisa, you could do the tefillah in the house. Even though there's people that are living on the second floor on top of the Beis HaKnesses. But they have to be careful, super careful, to keep their house, the upstairs, extra clean. We'll explain later in Siman Kuf Nun Aleph.
So the Muslim and the Christian, they're from this.
Yeah.
They build that very big.
Right. Mishik be a Beis Yosem Beis HaKnesses. Yeshem shkeifen es ala shpilai. Even though the Gemara, there's 3 opinions in the Rishonim. Some say you force them to go lower. Then there's some say you don't. And the Rebbeinu Tam is a middle way, which is that you could make the person build an extension to the shul, that at least one part of the Beis HaKnesses should stand up higher. That he should build in the corner. Say he should take in the right side of the shul and build something high that's going to be higher than the tallest spot on his own house. And he must have been in Gavoya Yosef B'Keren Nechem Beis HaKnesses Sagi
Why does he have to lose take money and build higher?
No, he has to buy, not the shul.
Oh, he has to buy.
buy for the shul to make higher.
Right. So
Who
one
wants to
opinion
buy?
says,
Take his down or take his house.
right. One opinion says you right away make him take his house down. The second opinion says, no, don't bother him. The middle opinion is Rabbeinu Tam, who says that you tell him, listen, we give you an eitzah. You can go and build,
What part of the shul higher?
one part of the shul higher. But you have to spend the money from your pocket.
Who has to build a shul higher?
The man that built the house.
Okay.
So the man that built a tall house, now the house is taller than the Beis HaKnesses. He has to go and he has a choice. Chop down the house or build up the shul.
Okay.
A or B. He gets to pick and he gets to pay.
Pick and pay.
What does it? Okay, let's learn a little the Mishnah Berurah.
According to this, how we do the Hilchos Nashim over here, higher than the men davening?
Good question. Good question.
Last shul ceremony.
So we'll talk about this. We'll talk about this. Okay. Koifin. Here, let's look together. This copy is only one. Koifin zelosh naram milchas tefila. Kama yishur shasar Yisrael tzarich lach labay shekansu betefila b'chaleis tefila. Mokim zinger Beis HaKnesses. Afilu miyut yochel amlokav samerubim. Hamochash mish b'tzim kuf samachzayin tzefala. Okay. The Zohar in this week's Parsha, Parshas Nosai, says that building a Beis HaKnesses is part of the mitzvah saseh of osu li mikdash. So every person that's giving money and is now participating and buying and building the new building in Beis Menachem Mendel is right now actively being the mitzvah of osu li mikdash v'shachanti b'soichem. The Alter Rebbe says in the Siddur, in the Maimer, Mizmashir, he says that Gam bechinas ha'orev hamshocha shoy bebeis hamikdash nimshecha Gam begolus Yisrael acher churbim b'chol botei knesius u'botei midrasha shemishpalim sham. That some of the holiness that was in the Beis HaMikdash now exists in every single Beis HaKnesses, Beis HaMedrash.
How do Rabbi calls it a seven? Beis Rabbeinu.
Beis Rabbeinu Shabbat. So,
Babel.
and the Kada Kemach says, Kol aboyne koisel echad, afilo davar muet, afilo yikve shamasmer echad. He can't afford it, but he could put one masmer in the wall of the Beis HaKnesses. Okay, so
Doesn't matter how much money you put into this, you could put $1.
no, the schus is small. What do you mean?
I mean, the more
He says the person that could not afford and he could only afford to put masmer echad, even that's a schus gedoyla.
they're giving you a school to be a part of the shul, right? You want just a nail, or you want a wall or a room, or
He says afila. First he says try to build one wall.
finish all on an omen. I want to be small. That's a good one.
No, forget. First he says to do a dava gadol. If he doesn't have a choice and he can't afford it, he gives a dava cotton, and that's it. Even that's a schus gedoyla. Hey, bencha. But he says, "Kol ha'moisif moisifin le min hashamayim."
Ah, that's the.
Kol ha'moisif moisifin le min hashamayim. You hear, bencha? So kol ha'moisif moisifin le. Okay, good. Let's continue. Let's continue a little bit. So next in the next page in the Mishnah Berurah, he says, if they can't build or buy, they should rent. However, poskim say renting is a lesser option than buying, because the kedusha in the place that is rented is not as big as the kedusha in the place that you bought. It's a shvachi kedusha. It's a shayla schirus kanya, schirus loikanya. So how strong is the kinyan schirus? So if they're renting, so when we were looking for Beis Menachem Mendel, so there was a big thought to rent. The truth is, we tried very hard and we didn't find. They wanted otherwise. They wanted we should buy, but we looked. But the truth is, the renting is a smaller option because the kedusha is smaller, and the kedusha when you buy it is much stronger. Okay.
But it's good that you were waiting for rent because you got a bigger place, and he starts with the 3 million. And
Yeah.
went down and down.
Yeah.
For
Okay.
us, you went down.
Yeah. Yeah. Ubeschiros Beis HaKnesses, it's interesting now, he says like this. Koso HaPosek in the beginning Beis HaKnesses given lefim Mamon L'Chudah, Beschiros Beis HaKnesses given Chetzel lefim Mamon Chetzel lefim Avoshes. You hear that? The people that were saying we should rent were making a mistake. They were thinking it's going to be cheaper. But the din is that if you're building a shul and you're buying the land, you force people to give based on how much money there has. So you say you need $3 million, you take all the people, you see how much their money they have, and then you say, okay, 10% of the money, 5% of the money, based on that. If you're renting, so then listen, the kedusha is not a long-term investment. It's only in order to use from today to tomorrow. So the rich man says, what are you taking? You're taking 7% of my money. but you're only renting, it's not fair. So we say that the rich man is right. Why should he pay if you're buying a shul forever? So taka, we take from the rich man more and from the poor man less. But if you're renting a space, why should the rich person pay more? I don't. The rich man says, and I say I weigh the same 200 pounds. My chair is the same size in the shul. So taka, we say chetzi lefina vashes. That 50% of the expense should go to nefashos. Okay, it's interesting, very interesting concept. Because of Magen Avraham, so if some kufn dal b'shem rivot shuv b'chesh mishpat. Hama'akev livnes Beis HaKnesses afili yesh Beis HaKnesses acheres bir meneu rab malasik mitzvah. What happens if a neighbor on the street says, "I don't like the shul. I don't like the shul"? What happens? Could happen sometimes. Once in a million years, such a thing could happen. So, they don't. Yeah, there'll be more traffic on the block. All these things didn't happen from today. There's already Shilas and Tshuvas that talk about it. The Prima Godim, the Kaf HaChaim from Baghdad brings from the Tshuvas Maria Levi that a person that complains and tries to hold back for a shul from doing construction, he's ki'ilu hoides v'noitzitz Beis HaKnesses. And God lavoyne minasoy. So people in a block, when a shul comes in the block, they have to think twice before they say something, because it's
front of the property
and make a copy of the Kaf HaChaim and explain it. Yeah, we should put a copy maybe in the mailbox.
Oh, make a shiur for all the neighbors of the shul.
We should make a shiur for the neighbors. They should know. And not only that, the Shatz Tshuvas say that the neighbors are saying that it's making a lot of noise, there's more rash, that they don't have such a right. You don't have that right to make that taina. You only have a schutz. You can have a shul on your block, in your building. You can't say, oh, now there's so many people walking in the hallways in the building, they're making more noise, in the block there's more traffic. You can't have that taina. You cannot have that taina. Let's continue a little further. He says, "Weiter, Mishnah Berurah." Here, right over here.
Thank you.
Sure. We're on page Lamed Aleph.
Bottom, the right side.
Page Lamed Aleph.
You like to build up shul next to a shul?
This is what we're going to talk right now. Exactly this question we're going to ask right now. Vayin, he says, in Beis HaKnesses, Masek Sham, in Beis HaKnesses, Mechila Oisam is Adraba, Surim Leporim. If there's a shul that has a lot of space in it, and some of the people say, yeah, let's make our own shul. Why not? Let's make our own shul. Let me talk to some of the guys, a couple of the quietly, I'll talk quietly, here, shushka here, shushka there, and I'll try to make my own shul. Not allowed to do that. I'm sure it's Advas Chela Gimel, Sherich Bedinim Eilu, B'Seid Dvar Kosa, Kol Zem Zman Kulam Leivechet, Shekilusan Eilu Yofe, Alim cholak libam yoseh toiv hu shispalo kokat b'fnei atzma. V'lo tita b'dvar olam eshani soive shachaluka toiv echatz v'shalom. D'hok kroksiv chibur atzav mafray manach loy. Cholak liba atam yesham el tzarech l'shtadl shlei b'echel avim sheb'shmayim b'im efsher shetav l'miskoitim b'machloikes. D'chei arabim yutat kan l'shenim b'tshuv v'ayim pischei tshuv v'chot shmish b'sherech b'nyonim eila. He says an unbelievable thing. If there is a town that has one shul, you know the story with the Jew on the island with the two shuls?
Yeah.
So that's the Tshuvas Radvaz. The Tshuvas Radvaz says, if everyone could daven in one shul, it's much better. But the Radvaz says, what happens if there's a different nusach, there's a different nigun, there's a different thing? So then better there should be several shuls. This way every person, just like we say, person should learn that every person has a place where they could daven and they feel comfortable. Based on the songs that they feel comfortable, based on the nusach, based on the style, based on the people, based on the space in the shul, that everyone should feel comfortable. That's better. But obviously, everything has to be done l'shem shamayim. But as long as it's done l'shem shamayim, that's the better option.
I like the answer.
Yeah.
I like the answer that Rabbi Ozeri answered me when I told him to make a meeting with you. He said, I have to raise money for the shul next to me. Rabbi Shem, I have to pay, you know how much money I
Okay,
have
so
to
you know what?
raise?
There is an interesting shaila from in the Igris Mishah. There was 4 shuls in Scranton. There were 4 shuls in Scranton, and then a couple of balabatim got together, and they said, we're going to do a good thing. We're going to make Roiv Hamhadas Melech. The Morgan Avram brings a machloek is better to have one shul or several shuls. He says that there is an opinion that says better to have one shul. We have Roiv Hamhadas Melech. So the people in Scranton wrote a shaila to the Moshe. This is 1960. They asked him, what's better? And Moshe smelled a rat. And he said, number one, he said, in America, everyone says the same Narisha thing. We're going to sell the 4 small shuls. We're going to make a big shul. What happens? They make a big shul. 3 years later, it becomes a conservative shul. Oh, the mechitza gets lower. The board of directors decides that it's too big. We need to have a microphone in the shul. V'chulu, 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 and it goes downhill very fast. So number one, he says, this is not a shayla b'chlal. He says this is just a ploy to make frum shuls into a conservative or reform shul. And then he starts saying, unbelievable.
Have you ever said this?
Huh?
Have you ever said this?
No.
story?
I remember 3 sections.
I don't think so.
I remember 3 sections. It had for a big seed.
Uh-huh.
It had a section
For men, for women, for mixed.
Yeah.
Milchig Parev and Trek.
It was about
What?
15 years. That's what we're about.
Here? So that's what Moshe was saying.
It became fruit. Young kids became.
Yeah, they became more frum.
Oh, the rabbis there are Chabad also. They never have to
No.
shave, but they don't have a beard either.
You know,
Woman rabbi.
my brother-in-law and my sister was shlichim from Israel in Massachusetts, in Holyoke. Years ago, 45 years ago, 50 years. And my brother-in-law had a very nice voice, Yamanite, but he died in Ashkenaz. So he was the chazan, he was the rabbi and Meccan principal. Then they finished the trio for 4 years. They went back to Israel. They wanted to be the rabbi there. He said, you want to be the rabbi there? I have condition. Number one, mechitza, double. So they had to fight there. Oh, the board. You're davening like this for years. Because of him, in the end, they make big mechitza. He was there for a few years, came back to Israel, and then every year they send him. I remember he used to come to my house to sleep a few days before Chagim. Rosh Hashanah and people used to daven the Bidei Chazan. They gave every 3rd year, they gave 2 tickets for his wife, for my sister also. And he used to come, he has a tape, Kozovitsky and all the Chazanim want to put the Nigunim there. But till today, people from Holyoke, they're old now, but they come to Israel, they go for Shabbat for him. So
Very nice.
he did something very strange.
Beautiful,
It's unbelievable.
beautiful. So the Moshe says, Chidush in his tshuva. He says, this whole question, if Roiv Hamhadas Melech, it's better to have 4 shuls or 1 shul, as only if there was 1 shul. The question is, should we break up the shul? We have 1 big shul. Question is, should we break it up into 4? So the yes or no, the shaila is because Re'im Avamah this melech. But if lechatchila you had 4 shuls, one on this block, one on this block, one on this block, one on that block, so that makes that more people could go to shul because some people are invalids, some people are lazy. So if there's a shul mamish right next to their building, right next to their block, they'll go. Well, Al Capone, they'll go more often to hear Kaddish Kedusha Baruch Hu and daven with a minyan. So that, but no one argued about that. Versteht, you should keep the 4 shuls in Scranton. The Shiloh would have been the other way around. There was only 1 shul in Scranton. The Shiloh, should we break it up into 4 or not? There's a machloikus. If you have 4 shuls, obviously you should keep it in 4 shuls because that's the different strokes for different folks. Different people click in different shuls better, and that'll make that more people should end up coming to shul. So therefore, versteht sich, that's better.
Why would you have a having is that this is set up to make the shul conservative? I
He
mean,
didn't have Avamina. He wrote it as a fact.
it was an instant question, I don't have why he's
Because he smelled it, I guess. I don't know. I wasn't around 1960, but I guess I could just tell you what tell you what the paper holds the ink, what I read. That's what the Moshe said. It's unbelievable. Usually he's not so sharp, and it's true. It's like he says. That's what he says.
It's a good show.
Okay, let's continue. Gimel, Ksuvim. I mean, this has been always this question: is it better to have a small minyanim or not? Okay, let's continue. We said that they should buy Torah and Ksuvim. Kedei shikram kol mashir tzem minatzibur. And v'davke b'mem shel nitna licht v'rak Torah and Ksuvim. Achsher machiyom gam nitna sekret talmud b'purishem v'lamad maktanim g'dolim. B'zman hazeh yemochuyev also to buy the Gemara, the Perushim, the Rishonim. If there is already Svarim Mitzuyim, then you don't have to because people have it in their houses. Because you could take a loan from the people in the city. The Achronim today say that it's not true because maybe in those days people were hamish that went into someone else's house and they felt comfortable. Can I use your Gemara Brachas? I'll bring it back in 3 weeks. Today people are not comfortable to do such a thing. So again, there's a mitzvah that the Beis HaKnesses should make sure that there is a Gemara and that there's Mefarshim and that there's an art scroll and there's a Steinsaltz and there is a Shulchan Aruch and there's a Rambam. So when people come in and they're comfortable, they could learn. The Gova Shel Ir. He said that the Beis HaKnesses should be built in the highest point of the city. Shenema Berosh Shumiyah is Tikra. Has to be Gavoya Mekol Bata years of cotton hay. Shenema Leroimim is Beis Elokeinu. There's 2 mitzvahs. The highest point of the city and also the building has to be the tallest being. Yesh Mekoim Shein Zoram Bazar. Kosva Achronim Shatam Dikim Sheshem Harba Bate Goyim Shel Goyim Beis HaKnesses Gemalava Chilak Kerel Beis HaKnesses. All over Europe, the church was the highest building. The Jews couldn't get permission to build higher than the church anyway. So what difference does it make? That you try to be as very, very, very careful because Chas v'Shalom, a city could be destroyed from that sin that the houses are taller than the Beis HaKnesses.
What happened in the apartment building? We have big floors and 10 floors. Sure.
So the Achronim today ask, what do you mean? Mela in the days of the Mishnah Berurah and whatever until a couple of, but now for 75 years you didn't live in Eretz Yisrael. No, the Goyim are not making any rules about churches being taller than a Beis HaKnesses and so on. So why is it that we see that all over Eretz Yisrael, where's the kula that you have in Yerushalayim? You have skyscrapers, you have buildings that have 20, 30 floors, and the shul is, you have 1 floor in the basement, whatever. So how could you have such a thing? So the emissaries, there's a lot. So there's a few pirushim in the Gemara. The Meiri is for us, in our sake, is the best. The Meiri says that when you say that the Beis HaKnesses has to be the tallest, it doesn't mean the tallest building from the outside. It means from floor to ceiling. That means if the people in this city, they have they have an 8-foot ceiling. Like in America, there was a time that they used to build houses 7-foot ceiling. Why? Because logs were very expensive, and to heat the house, the heat,
More surface area.
right? So you go very old houses in America, on average, are 7-foot houses. Then at some point, when they had steam, and they started building 10-foot houses at 9-foot. Most houses in Flatbush are 9-foot. In Crown Heights, some houses are 10-foot. Then,
The townhouses.
right, are 10-foot or 9.5.
What side?
Right. Then in the 60s, again, there was a concern about about putting a carbon footprint in the world. So a lot of houses were built 8-foot. You see, from the 60s, in the 70s, a lot of the houses are 8-foot. So here's the thing. You have to look from the floor to the ceiling in the average house in the town. If the Beis HaKnesses, the ceiling is 10 foot, you're not allowed to build your house from floor to ceiling should be 11 feet. You could be 7, 8, 9, 9.5. You can't build 10 feet. So because everyone sees, when you see a building, you look at a building in Manhattan, you see 40 floors. But you can see right away from the windows that their head is squeezing on the ceiling. You almost feel bad for the people there. You wonder if they have to bend their head. From far, it looks inside. It's not so bad, but every inch is a big difference. So these buildings, there's no building that has a 10-foot ceiling. The maximum, a fancy building,
The
first floor, yeah, the lobby, the store. But the buildings are 8 foot, right?
Seven.
No, the office buildings.
Apartment buildings.
Apartment buildings.
Huh?
Some of the lobbies are 15 feet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but they're not
apartment
living
buildings,
there.
yeah.
You have to look where the people live.
Apartment buildings like 8-foot ceilings.
8-foot ceiling.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
right.
Less than this.
So if a shul, Lama Zagan, if the shul has a ceiling that's 23 feet, you're good. As long as you.
This counts as 20 whatever feet, right? It doesn't
It's a
count
good
from
question.
here to here.
It's a good question. In the new shul in Mitzvah that we're building, hopefully it's going to be 23 feet.
Wow.
Hopefully it's going to be 23 feet because that's maximum.
One floor.
Yeah. So hopefully it's going to be 23 feet, and in the back will be as a nothing, but in the front will be 23 feet. So that's fine. No one builds. Okay, that's called L'Ram Beis Elokeinu according to the Meiri. That's the average house is never bigger than 9 feet. 23 feet that's mamish L'Ram Beis Elokeinu in the highest level according to the Meiri. Another pshat is that Achronim saying the Rambam sheboinim Beis HaKnesses ein boinin ela b'gov shlir. When you're building, but if you built a house and you're knocking out some walls, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about when you're building. The Sfas Ema says that if there's one Beis HaKnesses in the city that's bigger than all, Yerushalayim, you have bells, Lamazogan.
That's big.
It's
I think the biggest in the world. No?
right. Yeah, exactly.
The sukkah there.
It's a crazy.
You see it from Givala Miftar. You look over the hill on the mountains and you just see a palace on the hill.
Right. It's unbelievable.
Or you definitely see it from on the highway from Shmuel Navi's Kebra.
Right. It's unbelievable.
From the highway, Kvish 50. I think so. I could check them up.
Another pshat to say is that you have to really look also at the quality of the building. Today, a lot of people are not so into what's big, but also how nice it is. So, as long as the Beis HaKnesses is impressive and nicer than the regular house, has to be nicer than the regular house. Like the Rambam says, that the shul, the Beis HaKnesses, has to be nicer than your private residence. So again, if your house is nicer than the Beis HaKnesses, you got a problem. So you have a choice. You can make your house less nice, or you can make the Beis HaKnesses more nice.
If they're adding
nicer.
If they're adding up extension, that has to be tall. They have a taller area. They bought the house next door.
I didn't take that one very serious.
But they bought the next door. The big shul is big. The other one is
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This is
Right, different type of problem.
anyway, it's Baruch Hashem, very exciting that we're learning it and it's relevant to us. Okay, let's continue. Not only we're in Mitzvah Hashem this week, next week, hopefully going to apply for permits to build. And we learn what we end up learning Gemara yesterday about the whole thing that you have to make that the Beis HaKnesses should be the most impressive and tallest building. So just in case the part of the building has any sfeikus about what needs to be done, we have to show them the code. It's Orach Chaim 150 Mishnah Berurah 150b 5 through 7.
Bring the Chinese judge.
You should add in an addition on the bottom, like it's like from Tehillim, and the enemies of Zion will burn. Like, scared.
Okay, let's continue. Yeah.
So,
All the what? Yeah.
they European ideas. So my father told me that where he came from, over Stiblach, that he went down 2 steps. Why? Because the Makim proceed Hashem.
Only with the Baltfila stood.
No, he told me themselves they went down. Rabbi Khan, when he used to be over here before he moved, going back over 30 years ago. So he had where the Baltfila
The Baltfila stands, not the whole Beis HaKnesses. Not the whole base.
No.
Okay, we'll get to it at the end of the sim.
Yes. Wait, over here. Why you talk about the air?
The source is in the side, in the Be'er HaGoyla, Shabbos Daf Yudalef. That's the Gemara we learned yesterday. Let's continue. Sivkot and Vav, Asurim L'Noy, Retzalam L'Noy Ba'alma. If there's towers in the city that they're just for beauty, they don't use the inside. Even though they're taller than the Beis HaKnesses, I don't care. It's only a house that people are living in it. Al Gaba B'Retzalim Im Keim Beis HaKnesses Namach V'Makom Derotz Hilchos Mishari. Keren Echem Beis HaKnesses Sivkot and Ches Retzalim Shegbir Agzovis Echem Mikos LaBeis HaKnesses V'Davke Shegbir Yidei Binyan. Going Begago Aliyah, but look to my showing Tasha Techer and Amod Barzel Bekeren Echad. But you look Klum Betakanos. Make an antenna doesn't work. The Rabbeinu Tam said there was a person in Troyes that built a house taller than the Beis HaKnesses. So the Rabbeinu Tam said, look, I'm not going to force you to destroy the height of your house, but you have to add something to the Beis HaKnesses that bezovis echas that will stick out.
So it's external.
Yeah, but the Mishnah Berurah says you can't just take an antenna and put up one antenna. You're building a small room, a tiny little room at the corner. Yeah, that's what the Rabbeinu
connected to the inner sanctuary.
No, doesn't sound. It's a room. The shamish could put the Havdalah candle there, but there's something. That's what the Rabbeinu Tam said. Make bekeren achas in one corner, and this build a tall thing. The shamish should go up there and blow shofar the head of Shabbos. Yeah, but says the Mishnah Berurah, if you're just going to put a metal antenna, and you say, "Oh wow, I have it up a couple of feet," that doesn't work.
How they said about the Ben Ish Chai, when he spoke in Shabbat, 5,000 people. The less one there heard him. The less person there. When he passed away, the sun took over, and people complain, half of the shul cannot hear. And he has the symbols like his father. It was unbelievable. My parents, my boys, was hearing whole flower. He's standing there and hear like he's looking next to him.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
We have to get as a family that we convince them to come to bring their kids to hear the Aseret Dibrot. Because they're descendants from the Ben Ish Chai.
Want me to meet?
Yeah, to meet them. Okay, let's continue. Sivkot and Tes. Siv Dalet. Let's first learn Siv Dalet. Keneged Chalom Beis HaKnesses Ein Aspect Lo B'Chokes Arba Amas. Lefishu Tzorich Or Godel. A person that builds
like this box over
there. Yeah. And you're not allowed to put the box to cover the light from the Beis HaKnesses. And usually, when you build, 4 amas is enough. But over here, 4 amas is not enough. Rashi, the bottom of the Mishnah Berurah says, "It's a loimar the ilabana kois fall, but it's shusay neged chalon shel chaver dinu hu tzarach la'archik 4 amas kiddush shel haflas chalon v'dai." If you're building a house next to your friend, as long as you leave 4 amas, it's good. There's enough light to come in. Have a basic Knesset the tzarich godel mahani. It's have a basic Knesset the tzarich godel mahani.
More than a regular.
Yeah.
You need more.
So mahani acheskes chalon shesh lemekvash yitzarich la'archik yoyse. That you have to go more. Kama yoyse. How much? Shemura says probably 4 instead of 4, 8 amas.
But today in light, you can put a lot of light in the
No, listen, natural light, people are always arguing about it. I mean, that's why
That's a
the
nice.
zoning laws are here because people buy a house in a neighborhood.
Don't make a big house next to me and then I
Yeah,
can't see anything.
exactly. Right.
They pay off the inspectors, they happen next to me, I just with central block full by sunlight.
Me too.
They went to the
Yeah.
building inspector, they all paid off, nothing there.
I'm b'shari. They knew I'm not going to call against them, so they did it anyway.
Yeah.
V'ayim b'shari tshuva b'shem anoida b'Yehuda. V'ayim b'prim godem shemestapa k'lin azora. There's a notion of the law is the same. Gav shem lo yisaga b'ayim amas l'daiti nida havda l'loise falod. But avoch gam nikur din in the machaba in a borur that only the windows of the Beis HaKnesses you need to give more than 4 amas for the light. Kosev Ramah b'tshuva seif tzimel amid Beis chotze Beis HaKnesses she'em boi tashmish tzanu l'ram einechel limchas liyochit sh'masech shem chaleinoisav.
Rabbi,
One second. The Pesach Chalonik Kengishu Serab Dama. V'lima kol Pesach Chalonis Beis HaKnesses l'chatzeri yochel limchas b'yodam. I can't. Let me just explain that a person, there's a courtyard in front of the Beis HaKnesses,
You live very close to the shul.
and he lives close to the shul.
He
He wants to open a window, so the shul can't say, "Oh, you can't open a window. You're taking away privacy." So, what kind of privacy? Hakachanic privacy. The shul has hundreds of people going in and out. Well, I'm not taking away your privacy. You're taking away my privacy, but yeah, I'm not taking away. V'din zamaydi shayochi pesach unless I'm looking from halach l'rab. B'yev shalom livnas makam zev shom pam. It's only if this is a walking space, and it'll always be a walking space. Otherwise, the community could say you can't open windows to the courtyard. Why? The Shema Yirtzah call even this b'makam hazeh. Maybe the kol is going to want to build on that space. He's going to say, you can't build. I have my windows here. You can't stuff up my windows. The din is if they went to court, they went to Beis, and they would win. They would win anyway. The Kehillah would win, even if he opens windows. If they ever wanted to expand the Beis HaKnesses, he can't say, "Well, you're blocking my windows," because the din is that the Rabbim has the upper hand. But the Rabbim could say, "Now we don't want to let you open windows because whenever we're going to want to make an extension to the Beis HaKnesses, you're going to start screaming, you're blocking my windows." Yeah, we're going to go to Beis Din. We're going to win the Din Torah. How much time is it going to take to win the Din Torah? 6 months. We wasted 6 months. We don't want that. So we're not going to let you open windows
No.
to the Chos of Beis HaKnesses even now. So 7 years down the line, we don't have trouble with you. We don't have you standing and screaming when we make our extension for our Beis HaKnesses. Yeah.
Rabbi, speaking about windows, I remember once you were talking about the Beis HaKnesset needs to have a certain number of windows. How many windows should a shul have?
We said the 12.
12,
as
yes,
well. Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Because
Okay.
you mentioned one of the reasons. I mean, of course, the significant reasons the 12, but a shul should have a lot of
12.
natural light.
Right. We said that there's a lot of light in the shul. Let's read a little more and then finish it. This also b'seif chsidim chalon shoel lekneged rishus rabim. Bnei adam oivim derashom lebeis knesses leish pochom meraglaim min achaloim. Yesh shoel chem ashkom lebeis knesses shoel chem achoyshech lo yuchel lizor shlo stand from meraglaim. Siv shmo raglach keshetel lebeis elokim ad kan lashoyne. Seif chsidim always has a collection of like funny things. It says you're not allowed to But those days, people didn't have flushing toilets, so
There wasn't.
there was not.
Chamber pot.
So they're not allowed to take the potties and throw it out in the street, place where people are going to pass in the morning, and they're going to go in the Beis HaKnesses. So what's going to happen? Some of that stuff are going to get dragged into the Beis HaKnesses. So the Mishnah Berurah said, I don't understand. Anyway, you're not allowed to throw the stuff into the public property because people could.
Today people have dogs and they don't clean up.
Right,
Dog. What,
exactly.
you step on it and-
Yeah.
Also, b'seif v'shedis Yosef. Shechina b'seif. Huh? Right, it's Baba Kama, exactly. Because of Shedis Yosef, Shechina b'seif knesses, Yeshlam b'seif kisa, Shemegech min arech re'ala b'seif knesses. What happens if the shul has a neighbor and he has a bathroom and the bathroom makes a bad smell to the basic knesses? He has to tzarach la'achikoi. His house was there first. The basic kisa was there first. Yeah. If his bathroom is there first, the kehila has to pay him. That it says over there, if a person has a place where he does zoida, he threshes his wheat, and it's not good for the city. So if the city came first, they tell him pack your bags and get out of here. He says, but I paid for this field. I don't care. You paid for the field. Pack your bags and leave. But if his goyden was there first, so then they could tell him pack your bags and get moving. But they have to pay for it.
At whose price?
The city got to pay for it. Whatever he paid, they have to pay him back. Similar to that is an interesting shaila there, that the duchus, the duke said that there's Yidden in the little towns. If they're not going to move out of the little towns and go into the big cities, kicking all the Jews out of his country. So so first thing is the Yidden and the little towns have to move, because otherwise they're putting everyone in danger.
Because of them, everybody going.
Because it's a Zeika Derab. Because of them, everyone's never going to get kicked out of the country. Now, do the people in the city have to pay the people in the little villages? So it depends. Depends. If the Gzeira was also against the villages, then he doesn't. They don't have to pay for it. Otherwise, they do have to pay for it. But either way, if they have to pay or not, the Yiddelach of the little villages have to move out right away because it's a Zeika Derab. It's not such an interesting shiloh, like
It's a hero.
like
And the
they're
going
sad to hear what kind of shilohs. They're sad to hear what kind of shilohs are dealt with. The same thing here. If a person is on a block and he says, "I'm here for 25 years," now the Chabad came and they built here and they built and they came. Samach neshtois. The shiloh is who maybe pay or not, but the Beis HaKnesses always has precedence. Yeah, okay, you claim you were there first, and okay, so maybe they'll have to pay you for your Beis HaKnesses. Maybe yeah, maybe not, but definitely they have the precedence. Okay, let's stop at this point.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I came to America. Donald Trump built a hotel in Manhattan next to Bruce Avenue. Second, I don't remember where exactly. And there was a building next to him, like 10 floors, and his hotel was 15 floors, 20 floors. Say tomorrow they're gonna go and make this building higher than my hotel. That's HaKnesses. So he bought the air from 10 to I'm not sure for the next 30 years. You pay for nothing.
It's air rights. Really?
Air right.
Yeah. 432 Park Avenue, that tall box building did the same thing.
yeah.
All the air around it for like years.
Yeah.
That his hotel should be the biggest
Yeah.
in Israel.
There's some of the most expensive apartments in all the
Yeah,
city.
so when those things everyone's selling them. The penthouse is on the market for 20 million, 40 million less because they're having plumbing issues, they're having mechanical issues because it's so high, it wasn't engineered too good.
Yeah,
Yeah, and also like it's great being up there, but there's no porch.
there's no what?
There's no porch. You're that high up the ground. You can't have a porch.
Oh yeah. What's the highest point that you could have a porch?
I don't know, but 432 Park Avenue.
Yeah.
I'll show you some pictures.
Ari Aklo.
Okay. Here, here's the penthouse. 170
So
million.
much.
Crazy.
Crazy numbers. Yeah, on a per square foot basis,
You can't really. You're not up to the
it's the
window.
most expensive apartments to buy in the city.
You could see from all four walls.
Yeah,
I see that.
exactly.
Yeah, I saw the pictures.
How much are they selling that apartment
This
for?
is the building. It was 260 or 270 million just for the penthouse, maybe a couple floors, 3 floors, probably 2. And it's going, I think now it's at like 180 or because it's dropping because nobody wants it.
His
The
apartment,
tallest building there, and they have all the air rights around it for a little while, I'm pretty sure.
his apartment in the apartment building in Florida. You got the each floor is yours,
Yossi, how are you? Shalom Aleichem.
right? And the car goes.
I'm sorry. Zalmi, you look just like Yossi.
If you want to cross the car.
I know you and your brother.